Hey everyone, GamerJlee here, and welcome back to another video. And it's been another month, and that means another Q&A. Now I know this is late, and I know that people had to kind of remind me to do the Q&A. The main thing is there wasn't a lot of questions, but I still owe it to you guys to give you guys answers that you requested of me. So without further ado, let's go right into the comment section of last month's Q&A and see what we've got there. To start off this month's Q&A, we have another comment from the Heroic Spartan. He says, I have a few more questions for you. 1. What did you think of the past Halo games? Well, what do you mean past Halo games? Are you talking about the original trilogy? Or are you talking about the 343 bullshit? What exactly are you talking about? Are you talking about Reach? Are you talking about ODST? If you have to go one by one, I would have to say Halo 1 was basically what opened my eyes to a really fun game series that I was excited for, to the point that it motivated me to get an Xbox. It was such a draw and such a entertaining and fun game, not just single player wise, but multiplayer wise, that I actually wanted a console. It was a massive, influence to get an Xbox. And I guarantee you that's a lot of reasons why the Xbox is so popular is because of Halo. Because if Halo wasn't there at launch of the Xbox original, basically it would have been a giant flop. I think that Microsoft would have failed and we would have never gotten the Xbox 360. We've never gotten the Xbox One X or Xbox One, whatever you want to call it. But in all honesty, Halo 1 was a major influencer. When it comes to Halo 2, great sequel, sadly rushed due to time constraints because of Microsoft, but still nonetheless a great game that introduced Xbox Live. It introduced bigger amounts of players. It was a fun game. It was a really fun game. And, here or there, I love the physics. I love the art style. There were things that I didn't like about Halo 2. I thought the flood missions were extremely boring compared to the first game. But overall, Halo 2 is still a fun game. Halo 3, by the way, is my favorite game of all time in the Halo franchise, and I enjoyed it for a lot of reasons. One, the art style was perfect for the newer style of the Xbox 360's hardware. You had basically a little bit of grittiness, but not too much. You basically had also some very beautiful skyboxes, as well as a great color palette for the game that I personally enjoyed aesthetically. It was a great game that introduced a number of new things, including theater mode, Forge. You had a lot of people that enjoyed doing all sorts of crazy custom games, and there was just so much you could do with Halo 3. You also had the number of vehicles and new weapons that were introduced with Halo 3, and one of my favorite vehicles of all time being the Brute Chopper, which, by the way, I still really want to have a return in Halo. Now, when you move on to ODST, ODST was a game that I enjoyed single player wise. I think it's one of the best written single player campaigns in the Halo franchise. Firefight mode was a great concept, but you could tell that they were riding off the coattails of the Horde mode that was done by Epic Games with Gears of War. You also have the idea of them returning with theater mode, and honestly, I think that it was a great, maybe $40 game, at most, but I don't think it was worth a full $60 for just the campaign and the, firefight mode with just a little bit of customization. Now, a lot of people will probably say, well, you got the multiplayer disc with all the DLC on it for Halo 3. Yes, but most people who bought ODST already had all the DLC for Halo 3. But if you were just jumping into Halo and you didn't buy all the DLC, it could have been a great value, but still, nonetheless, it was kind of iffy for me. I would have paid $40 for that. Reach, to me, was the downfall, the beginning of the end for Halo. When it came to Reach, great campaign, great firefight mode, which had a lot of replayability, great, not theater mode was broken, I believe, but multiplayer wise, it had an amazing vast amount of maps. It also had, invasion, which was a big thing, and honestly had a lot of replayability there. There was just things about it I didn't enjoy. One, Spartan abilities this was the introduction of advanced movement in the beginning of Spartan abilities in Halo Reach. Didn't really enjoy that. Bloom. I hated Bloom on rifles. I thought it slowed down the pace of combat where, you know, before you just had kind of that motion of remembering when you should fire off your weapon, where with this, it just, you had to slow down and basically take your time. And I feel like it took, you know, combat that was already pretty slow when it came to Halo and slowed it down even more, which basically kind of ruins the fast-paced action of Halo. Now, it's not something crazy like Call of Duty where you're running around all the time, but when you're adding sprint and everything, and then you have to slow down to kill someone, it's kind of frustrating, not gonna lie there. Halo 4 was complete trash. Campaign was decent, but overall the game was trash. I hated the aesthetic art style. I thought the campaign was decent. Spartan Ops was good, but sadly it left off on a cliffhanger and they didn't really do much with the story afterwards. You guys all know how I feel about Halo 5. It was a fucking dumpster fire. It was a game that came out half-baked and basically had no appeal to it, because there was so much content missing that they filled later on, and they added new features that I did appreciate, but it was a little too late. And I have a feeling that we're going to get everything we want with Halo 6, but I don't think that it's going to make up for the dumpster fire that was Halo 5. Now, the second question that Heroic Spartan asks is, what is your most favorite game on the PC? Well, that is a very tough question, because this can be taken a lot of different ways. I've put a lot of time into Counter-Strike Global Offensive. That is by far the game that I've put the most amount of hours into. I've almost put 1,000 hours into that game. I also have other games that I put a lot of time into. You have PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which I'm gonna be no longer supporting due to them being fucking jealous cucks and trying to sue Epic Games for basically saying that their UI is very similar and they've added weapons that are very similar to the game. That's just ridiculous in my opinion, and this lawsuit's a joke. But I think that my favorite game on the PC is probably PC Building Simulator. I've put a lot of time into that game and I really do enjoy it. It is a fun game that I like to sit down and just kind of work on, if you know what I mean, right? I like to just sit down, work on it, and basically just take my time and kind of relax, kind of like sit down whenever I'm stressed out and just do something I enjoy. And I think by far that's one of my favorite games on PC. Now, is it the best game on PC? No. There are a lot better games than PC Building Simulator, but is it one of my favorites? Yeah. You also have other games like Cuphead and you have Sonic Mania, but if you're talking exclusive-wise, well, not exclusive wise, but basically games that are better on the PC that have had really shitty ports on console. You have PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which had an extremely shitty port on console, as well as Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which had a atrocious port on console, and then PC Simulator, which is a early access game that I really do enjoy putting my time into. 3. Would you visit your fans if you could? If I could visit fans or do a fan meetup, I would love to do that. Now, I would want it to be in a safe and secure area, because you never know. Someone might show up, they might hate my guts, and they might stab me. But if let's say, like, if you mean visit my fans, like go to their house or something, the only time I would do something like that if it was Make-A-Wish or something that was for someone who, you know, really, you know, wanted to meet me, you know, that was an actual like request or something like that, something special. If it's like a fan meetup, yeah, I would love to meet my viewers. I would love to hear what they think, and I would love to see, you know, how my videos have helped people, because I have gotten messages saying that my videos have brightened up people's days, and I guess it's kind of a humbling thing, because I don't think I'm that amazing of a content creator. I'm nowhere on par with some of my colleagues in the Halo community. You've got Duquesne, who does amazing Forge videos. You've got Favin, who does great discussions. You have Hidden Xperia, who does tons of lore and great discussions on lore. I am nowhere in the league of those content creators, yet a lot of them have respect for me, and it's very humbling to see how much people appreciate my views, but I don't think I'm worthy to be, you know, classed with those people. But it would be nice to hear what people think and basically get to see some of the faces and connect those faces with the people who I talk with on my live streams and so on and so forth. 4. What is the worst game you've ever played? Worst game I've ever played. That is a very tough one. I would have to say the worst game I've ever played is a three-way tie. It is a three-way tie. Actually, no, it's a two-way tie. It's either between The Walking Dead Survival Instinct. That game was fucking dumpster fire, published by Activision. I don't know who it was developed by. And then I think it would have to be a tie with Hunt Down the Freeman. And if you guys ever saw that live stream of us playing Hunt Down the Freeman and what happened afterwards with basically me refunding the game. Yes, I refunded the game, and basically it says, why are you refunding the game? And I wrote, kill me, ... It was that atrocious of a game that basically I couldn't stand it. That was probably the worst game I've ever played. 5. Do you have any Halo games that you hate? Any Halo games that I hate? Well, that's a tough one. I don't hate any of the like Spartan Assault games or anything. I would have to say if I hated a Halo game, it would probably be Halo 4. Just mainly because of the multiplayer that was just basically Call of Duty. And honestly, it was an annoying class-based system. But it's kind of a tie because Halo 5 pissed me off. Halo 5 I thought was a slap to the face of the Halo fans, and I thought that it really fucking just was a kick to the nuts. The lack of content on day one, the, free bullshit, content ladder that they came up with, I thought was atrocious, and honestly, I thought that it was kind of a slap to the face to the consumer for Halo 5 and saying that this was new content we were getting. That's just me, though. And then your final question is, what was the best Halo you have ever played? And I mentioned this earlier in this video, Halo 3. Now, I know this is going to already be a long video because, there are some basically longer questions and people have asked me multiple questions. Guys, and Heroic Bard, please try and keep it down to one question because I know that you guys like to ask me a lot. But I would appreciate if we kept it down to one questions. Those are my questions. Please answer them. Thanks. Peace out, says Heroic Spartans. Well, there you go, Heroic Spartans. I hope that was, a lot of information. It went on for quite some time. So hopefully that helped you out. Our next question comes from Vinyl Gaming. Q&A. So after the whole Battlefront 2 situation with microtransactions, we've seen EA remove them completely from the game and now have a reworked progression system. And just recently, Shadow of War removed their microtransactions. Do you think this is just a trend or have gamers finally won? Sorry for the long question and have a great day. Well, that wasn't really a long question, but I think it was a very important one. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's not really gamers winning, it's that they have to kind of abide to these new laws, and basically a lot of countries are considering banning RNG loot boxes. It's basically them having to change with the times due to them being so scumbaggy for all these years. And it is a good thing. In my opinion, it is a good thing that we are getting away from these RNG systems. And this comment was probably, it was made 1 month ago. This was long before the announcement of Battlefield 5. And as you guys know, there will be no loot boxes in that game. There will be no loot boxes. It will be a traditional progression system, and basically any cosmetics will be unlockable through in-game currency that you can earn or outright purchasing the item, which I am totally fine with. I've got a lot of problems with Battlefield 5, but the main thing is that I'm happy that they are getting away from the loot box system, and I hope that this will become a thing with most games. Now, there has been rumors and surveys asked about Overwatch, basically them talking about having to change how they do it because loot boxes are basically going to start getting blocked in a lot of countries. So honestly, in my opinion, do I think that gamers have finally won? Yes, but it's not like they're doing it from a moral standpoint. The EAs and Activisions, they aren't doing it from a moral standpoint. They're trying to not lose sales of games to other countries because they fucked up. It is us winning, but it isn't them learning, a lesson. This is them just trying to change with the times so that way they can keep their profitability, and it also makes them look like the good guys, but deep down we kind of know what they're doing. But thank you very much for the question, Vinyl. It's always good hearing from you. Our next question comes from Jason X17112. Question for the May Q&A. What is your history with gaming? What do I mean by that? I mean, 1. When did you start playing on a video game system? Like, when did you start playing GameCube, PS2, OG Xbox, and so on up until 2018? Well, that is a very simple question. I started playing when I was 5 years old, and I started with the Sega Genesis. Now, if you're talking about GameCube, PS2, and Xbox, well, that was when they came out, because I got a PS2 whenever it launched. I picked up Twisted Metal Black, which I was a big Twisted Metal fan at the time, and honestly, it just goes from there. I had the big fat boy PS2, and it was absolutely amazing. GameCube, same thing. I believe I bought that right around the time WrestleMania 18, the game came out, because I was a big wrestling fan, and that game was, honestly, in my opinion, this is very subjective, I thought that game ran phenomenally, but it was an atrocious game, because of just how the controls were. It was not, it looked amazing graphically, but but controls wise it was shit, and basically the blocking system, everything was just terrible. I'm glad we have the games we have now. And Xbox, I've already explained with Halo, but I didn't get that until about 2003, a year before the release of Halo 2. So that's basically where I started there, with the Sega Genesis with Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Second, what do you think was your first game for every gaming platform you were on? That is an impossible question to answer. I can try and answer it, but that is a very impossible question to answer. If I go through it, I would have to say for the Sega Genesis, it was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. For the PS1, it was Twisted Metal 2. When it came to the Nintendo 64, I believe the first one I played was Super Mario 64 or Super Smash Brothers. When it came to the PS2, Twisted Metal Black. When it came to the GameCube, I believe it was WrestleMania 18. I also picked up Super Mario Sunshine, which, by the way, the funny story about Super Mario Sunshine, we had to go back to the store because they put some fucking educational, stupid, like, computer game in the case, because back then they would keep the disc separate from the box, and basically you had to go to the counter and they put the disc in, and it was some educational PC game. It wasn't, the actual game. So fuck you, Toys R Us. Sorry that you're going out of business, but you fucked up one of my nights of playing video games. When it came to the Xbox 360, it was with the 360 was Gears of War 1. PS3, I got Twisted Metal 2012 or 2011. It was one of those years when they did that Twisted Metal reboot, which was an abortion of a game. When it came to the Xbox One, you had the original launch games, like, Forza and Dead Rising 3. And then with the PS4, it was, I would say, I'm trying to remember what my first, I think I got Infamous Second Son. That was my initial game I got for the PS4 whenever I picked that up. So, but that is a pretty good question. Sorry if this is a long one. Hope it gets answered. Well, it just did, Jason. On to the Discord questions, and starting us off, we have Claude Assassin. Despite the flawed Halo 5, what did you think about its expanded weapon sandbox? Now, I'm not exactly sure what he means by this question, but I'm guessing he's talking about the Warzone weapons. That might be what I think he's talking about. If not, please clarify in a private message, and I will try and answer it privately with you through Discord, of course. but he asks about the expanded weapon sandbox. The weapon ideas were cool. I would say that they were cool, but my problem is it was a pay-to-win system. It was RNG loot boxes that honestly gave you an advantage in the mode. All you had to do is just wait for your level to get high enough that you can just go and grab that weapon and go on a slaughter spree. Now, yes, you can get killed and lose the weapon and just have your run be done like that. But nonetheless, I don't like RNG. I don't like, you know, a system where basically if I fucking go and I spend $10 on, you know, the month of mythic fucking, you know, loot boxes, that I basically get an advantage over you. That isn't fair. That isn't fun. Fun to me is a fair, equal game. And hell, I have more fun playing the Halo 5 regular multiplayer where everyone has equal starts compared to playing frickin' Warzone, which I find a complete clusterfuck. And honestly, a mode that needs a lot of tweaking if they plan on bringing it back in Halo 6. Honestly, I'm a bigger fan of Big Team Battle. I find that a lot more fun, and I just found Warzone to be atrocious, in my opinion. It has its place, but it was implemented very poorly, in my opinion. But one thing I will say about this is that when it comes to the whole situation of the expanded, you know, weapon sandbox, cool idea, but unfortunately the way it was implemented was very poorly. I think it would be a lot cooler if you could go and, you know, it was a special spawn on the map, or if you kill the boss, it drops like a special weapon that you can use for like a certain amount of time or until the ammo runs out. I think that would have been cool. I think that, you know, maybe you go and, you know, what would be cool in Halo 6 is if they brought like the brutes back and you had to kill a brute chieftain, and when you kill that brute chieftain, you get his Tartarus gavel. Basically, it's like the mini, you know, Tartarus gravity hammer. You know what I mean? That would have been cool. If you killed Yap Yap the Destroyer, you get an insane fuel rod cannon or something like that. I think that it would be a lot funner if it wasn't based off RNG, but based off of skill and dedication to the mode, instead of being off of loot boxes, but that's just me. Our next question comes from Rogue49 on the Discord, and he says, GamerJlee, if you could design a rec system in your own way, what would it be like? Well, in all honesty, this is going to be a very short answer. There would be no rec system. There would be no pay-to-win model. I don't like it. I don't think there's any real way to do it, and I don't like RNG. I don't like basically, you know, pay to progress or pay to win. I'm very against it, and I've always found the rec system to be that way. I find that RNG loot boxes are not great, and there's no way to do the rec system with, you know, just buying them outright, because if you buy them outright, that just gives you an advantage. That's pay to win. You know, there's no winning with the current rec system, and there's no way to do it without being an RNG loot box. So either way, it would have to go away. I think I kind of explained it better in the last question, where I said what I would do is basically have bosses and certain enemies carrying around these more powerful weapons, making the enemies more of a challenge, and basically you get rewarded. So like if in Halo 6 there's brute chieftains, they carry around Tartarus gavels or whatever, you know, gravity hammers they carry, and if you kill the boss, you get the hammer, and it has like full ammo, and basically you keep it until you die or until it runs out of ammo. But that's just my simple simple answer to your question. I know it's not the best, you know, answer in the world, but hopefully it's good enough. The next question comes from J-Dog, but he also renamed himself Monica. Yay. So, do you think a flood horror game could happen? I would think so. I think it would be an interesting game, especially with the first-person perspective, but they would have to change how the AI worked for the flood. You would have to have it be a lot more, I would say, random and less predictable. When it comes to the flood, it's very predictable with how they rush you, basically how the AI works. It just works like a regular AI, but in a flood combat form, and acts like it almost has a melee weapon, unless it's using like a battle rifle or something, depending on what the combat form is. I would have to say it would have to be a lot less predictable, and it would have to take a lot more to take down a flood combat form. I think it would have to be more of a challenge, kind of similar to what Dead Space is. Basically, you have to attack the limbs of the enemy. So, for example, let's say this game took place and you're playing as an ODST on some sort of, ship that has been floodified, but you're like the lone survivor. Let's say, a combat form's rushing you. It uses its whip arm to attack you. You have to, cut off that arm somehow, or focus fire on, taking out that arm before you can take out the rest of the form. Or you would have to basically be able to take out the infection form that's inside the chest cavity. But what it would have to be is basically, it couldn't be so easy. Because with Halo, Halo 1, 2, and 3, especially 3, it's extremely easy to take out that infection form with one shot. This would have to be a lot more harder to do, in my opinion, because if not, it's just going to be a flood, horror game that's going to be a cakewalk. Because if you can take down every enemy with one shot, it's not really that scary. They're not that much of a threat. So these guys would have to be a real threat to you and not be so, easy to take down. Now, a lot of people say, well, the Flood aren't easy to take down. No, the Flood are very easy to take down. You can literally take out the Brute infection form, the Marine infection form, and the Elite infection form in one shot. And it's because if you can find and aim properly on the actual infection form that's in the chest cavity, you can take them out just like that. It's that simple, but people basically freak out when they see the Flood. They don't act calm and rational. They just start pumping bullets into it until it falls down. But you kind of get used to it once you start playing the games and you can see that form just sitting there with the tendrils sticking out of it. But do I think it could work? Yes. Do I think that it could be the same way as it is for Halo 3 and 2 with the Flood? No, not really. It would have to be totally revamped and the AI would have to be changed. But very good question, Monica. Our next question comes from Viking Boar on the Discord. What did the Flood from each main Halo game bring to the table? What sort of thoughts have you got? Not necessarily asking your thoughts on the AI, but how intimidating they feel in each of the Halo games. Which Halo games Flood gave you the chills, heat of the moment, or harder difficulties? Well, let's break it down kind of. I think out of all of the Halo games, Halo 2 or Halo 1's Flood were the hardest, depending on what you got. You had in Halo 1 and Halo 2, rocket launcher fucking combat forms. I've made a joke about this whenever I did my video on the library / Cortana, and yeah, they are fucking insane. They are terrible, and I really hate those combat forms with a passion. But when it came to chills, I would probably say Halo 2's, I've had a lot of jump scare moments with Halo 2's, because the environments were so dark and, like depressing whenever it came to flood areas that it did give me chills whenever I would just get smacked from behind by a combat form. Halo 1's, it was a shocker, of course, because you're not used to this. You're not supposed to be used to seeing, something that isn't the Covenant. But Halo 3's, in my opinion, had the most changes to it with the pure forms, where they could transform it into either the Stalker, the Tank, or the Needler one. I believe it was called it wasn't called the Stalker. The Stalker was the little one that would run around. The Tank was the big, like, hunter-looking one. And then the Ranger, I think it was called, was the one that would basically shoot needler rounds at you. And honestly, those ones were extremely cool, but they were also extremely easy to take down. You could take down the Stalker and the Ranger with a simple melee attack, where the Tank one was a little bit harder, but honestly not to the point of impossibility over time. It just was very predictable with the AI, and the combat forms in Halo 3 were very simple. Just shoot for the open chest wound, which I learned to get used to in the earlier Halo games with Halo 2 and 1 after I played Halo 3, but they weren't as easy as Halo 3 was. Halo 3 was just simple like that. It was plain simple, just nowhere to shoot, and you can usually take down a combat form with one shot. That's just me though. It did give me chills in Halo 2 whenever, with Halo 2 Anniversary especially, whenever you saw the Gravemind. Just with how detailed and disgusting the character is, it does, really fuck with you. Like, the Halo 2 original Gravemind does not do the Gravemind justice in Halo 2 Anniversary, which is so much more detailed and so much more disgusting and intimidating that, honestly, I just look at the Halo 2 original Gravemind and think, oh, I didn't know we were watching, fucking Little Shop of Horrors or whatever it was called. I didn't know we were watching that. So that's just me though. I think the most intimidating moments were probably in Halo 2. And depending on it, you could either say Halo 2 Anniversary or Halo 2 Original. Either or. Next question, and this comes from Riot Dragon. Q&A. What is your second favorite video game franchise? Now that one is a very tough one because a franchise is basically meaning it has multiple games in it and it's gone on for a long time. And this might just be a little bit biased from, me growing up, right? I would have to say Sonic the Hedgehog if we're just mainly focusing on the main games, the original like 1, 2, 3 Mania, which was actually really great, and I love that game. You also had the adventure games, which are a lot of fun. Yes, Sonic has had some really bad games, I'm not gonna lie, but I do really enjoy Sonic the Hedgehog nonetheless. It's something I can always go back to. You also have Mortal Kombat, which honestly, the past two games, which we've had, Mortal Kombat 9 and Mortal Kombat X, which is 10, have been great. Storytelling wise, excellent, great retelling of the original games with tweaks to make certain characters who were good guys be bad guys and so on and so forth. I thought those games were excellent. I actually replayed through Mortal Kombat 9 recently, and I'm kind of stuck at the moment with the final boss fight against Shao Kahn. And I guess for me, the one thing I get annoyed by with Mortal Kombat is whenever you're doing boss fight, you can't treat it like a traditional fight. You have to cheese it. There's no way around it. And it is annoying. I don't like to do cheap tactics. I want to take the skills that I've learned over my time playing as the character and implement them in the hardest fight that I can. But I guess all I can do is jump over his head, uppercut, jump over his head, uppercut, jump over his head, uppercut, flying thunder god. Like, literally, it's a repeat process with these boss fights, and that kind of takes away a little bit from it. But nonetheless, the story of Mortal Kombat games recently have been amazing, and also Mortal Kombat has been in my childhood since I started playing video games with the Sega Genesis. So it honestly is a little bit of a tie between Sonic the Hedgehog and Mortal Kombat, but that is a great question, Riot Dragon. Our next question comes from Is a Real Gender. Q&A, what is your favorite type of music? Ooh, that's a very good question, Real Gender. That is something that I honestly do not have a particular favorite genre. I have particular favorite bands, like, as you guys may know if you saw my Gorillaz video. Gorillaz is my favorite band. They saved my life. They, stopped me from committing suicide. I also, their genre is kind of a unique one where they're not just one genre. They're not just hip hop. They're not just rock. They're not just, they're not just traditional. They do all sorts, techno. They kind of mix it and blend it with what is, at the times more popular. Like when they originally came out in 2001, they were more focused on rock with a little bit of hip hop. In 2004, when they came out with Demon Days, it was mostly hip hop, but it had its own unique blend of instruments with certain tracks. You also had Plastic Beach, which was mostly electric, techno-ish music, and was a lot more not mainstream instrument based, but still was unique due to the times of, you know, electronica music being popular. And now in 2018, with, you know, humans, it was kind of a blend of just whatever the fuck you want to throw at it. It was kind of random, but I also like other, you know, forms of genres of music. I love metal. I've always been a metalhead. I also enjoy hip hop. You know, there's only one rapper I listen to nowadays. I've totally disconnected from Eminem because he's kind of become a fucking a little bit of a whiny bitch, and I found his album to be very boring and not Eminem-ish at all. Even my friend Elvar, who's a hardcore Eminem fan to the end, thought the album was trash. And that's coming from someone who literally every time I see him is wearing a fucking Eminem shirt. So, yeah, Eminem used to be one of my all-time favorites. You also have Weezer. I've always been a Weezer fan. I've liked, you know, their unique style, you know, and they've not always stuck with one genre. But the only rapper I really listen to nowadays is Post Malone. I honestly like that he started as a YouTuber and grew from there. He basically, you know, is kind of like one of those underdog stories where he started from the bottom, now he's here, you know, Drake joke. But honestly, I've been listening to a lot of Post Malone. I loved Beer Bongs and Bentleys. It was a great album. I listen to Gorillaz, more of their older stuff instead of their newer stuff, but I can get with some of their new stuff depending on what the track is. Eminem, older stuff, don't like the newer stuff. That's the way it is with a lot of different artists for me. So really, I can't say what my favorite type of music is, but I can tell you who some of my favorite artists are. I hope that that's a good answer for you, and I hope that satisfies your question. So our final question is another one from Claude Assassin, but I thought it was very relevant to the time, and I wanted to give it an answer. So he says, Q&A, with Black Ops 4 being a cash grab and with content taking advantage of a genre, aka Battle Royale, which has an unknown amount of steam, do you think that other companies will follow suit in this shitty business practice? I hope not. I really hope not. I haven't seen really any other companies plan on doing this. There hasn't been any announcements of other Battle Royale modes, but E3 is right around the corner. You never know. We may see 6 other Battle Royale modes pop up, but what's funny is that Battlefield didn't jump on the Battle Royale trend. They jumped on a number of trends that I don't like, but they didn't jump on the Battle Royale one. They also basically didn't focus on supply drops like Call of Duty most likely will. And there are things about Black Ops 4 that are getting better, like this game will have dedicated servers, which is awesome, you know, that they're going back to dedicated servers, but it's sad that it took them being this desperate to finally give people what the consumers have been asking them for years. Dedicated servers and basically, better quality of life improvements with the franchise. But when it comes to the Battle Royale genre, you can tell it's slapped on. You can tell that they're doing this because it's a trend and it's going to get all these Fortnite kids to come back to the game. Now, let me explain this. And this is coming from a YouTuber perspective and, watching the YouTube algorithm. I follow a number of YouTubers I don't even like Ali A. I follow him because I want to see where he's going. I follow HoloPoint, which is the only Call of Duty YouTuber I actually enjoy. He's actually a really cool dude. T Martin I don't really follow, but I basically keep up with what he's doing, and then so on and so forth. The main thing for me is that you've noticed over time they've jumped from game to game to game. So after Call of Duty started to fall off with Infinite Warfare, they jumped over to Rainbow Six Siege. That game basically is still growing nonstop and doing really well, but now, because of Fortnite, the popularity of Fortnite, everyone's jumping on it. It's basically drawn them in. And guess what? Call of Duty, basically, in Activision, saw, a lot of our former content creators that made us as popular as we are sitting on a Battle Royale game. I wonder if we can draw them back with the Black Ops 4 Battle Royale mode. Let's jump on that bitch and fucking ride it until the horse is dead. because they're going to kill the genre if they are not careful. And do I think that other companies will follow suit? I really hope not. I hope that we don't see a Destiny Battle Royale mode, because that's under Activision. I would be worried about any game that's under Activision that has a multiplayer mode jumping on the trend of Battle Royale just to get people to come back to their game. But that's just me. I don't trust Activision. I trust EA more than I do Activision, and I don't like either company. But again, that's just me, and I hope that, this gives you the answer you're looking for. But I really... we're just going to have to kind of wait and see with E3 right around the corner. But do I hope that they will? No. I hope that they really come up with new, unique, things that are basically new trends and new ideas for gaming, not just jumping on a trend and riding it for the cash cow that it is. Be unique. Don't just be the standard. That's my opinion. Okay, everyone, so that is going to do it for this month's Q&A. And if you guys would like to have your questions answered, go down in the comment section down below and leave your question. Title it Q&A or hashtag AskGamer, whatever you want to do, and just leave it down below. And most likely it will get picked and answered. I kind of make these videos a little bit longer and a little bit more open-ended, so that way everyone gets their questions answered. And please try and limit it down to one question. I know that there's a lot of questions that want to be answered, just like what Heroic Spartans did, but please try to limit it down to one question. That way everyone gets a lot more time and the video won't be uber ridiculous long like this one probably is going to be. But thank you guys for watching. If you guys would also like to go down in the description below, you will find my Twitter, Discord, and Twitch, which I've been doing a lot more live streaming over on Twitch. We've done a few different Half-Life streams, which will be continuing very soon. We also just recently finished off A Way Out with me and Insane Matt. Good stuff, good stuff. Go check it out. You also have my Twitter, which you can keep up with everything I am doing and all of the content that I will be creating, as well as some of the awesome discussions that we are having over there. And then you will also find the link to my Discord. Our community is growing very slowly, but very, very well. There's a lot of great people in our community on our Discord, and we would like you to be a part of that. So go down to the description box below and join us. But guys, that I think will do it for this month's Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like on it. If you didn't, go ahead, leave a dislike. Doesn't matter to me. I just want to hear your guys' opinion. If it wasn't that great, go ahead and let me know. So thank you guys for watching. But as always, GamerJlee signing out.